podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to It's Only a Game. We're back. Saudi Arabia didn't want us, so here we are. Tonight we are joined by just Greg. Unfortunately, Matt and Dak are training with the reserves. They've got to move to, was it Al Dente's Pizza? No, seriously though, they are busy with other things. They will be here with us at some point. Dak may even pop his little head in tonight. We don't know. Not going to make any promises. But this is all about predictions. That wonderful thing that everyone's doing to make it look like we know what we're talking about. Spoiler alert, we don't. Anyway, Greg, how are you doing, mate?
Doing all right, Jim. Yeah, not too bad. It was only until Saturday that I realised that the football starts, and I was like, hang on, when does it all kick off again? So it's sort of an emergency pod, but sort of isn't, sort of is. It's one that we want to try and cram in before, I think, the football starts, preferably. I think that's the direction we're going in, isn't it, Jim?
Absolutely. First off, just while we're here, obviously Matt is not here. We want to wish him a happy anniversary. Happy 5th anniversary with Heather. You may remember Heather from the superior knowledge she showed on the Valentine's football quiz. Little throwback there. But no, Greg, I agree. I mean, this is going to sound really motivational, like for a football podcast. I've really enjoyed not following football over the summer because I think Everton, and in your case Rochdale as well, wore me down so much that I was just like, nope, just quite happy to not address it. Saudi Arabia are making millions and millions of signings. Great, okay. I must admit, though, the one thing that I have really enjoyed football-wise over the summer is the Women's World Cup, but we will cover that, give it the respect of the time it deserves. Obviously, trying to shove it in with the predictions podcast for the 5. Notice how it's now the top 5 divisions. You're welcome, Rochdale fans, and Oldham fans, whoever listens. So I feel like it would be a bit not doing it. It's a literal World Cup. It wouldn't be doing it the service it deserves to just shove it on the end of a bit of chatter. At the end of like predicting our National League relegation spots seems a bit disingenuous, really. So we will address that in more detail because it has been a really, really entertaining World Cup. England, the Lionesses, doing pretty well.
Yes.
Well, 1-2 games. Not the best performance against Haiti and Denmark, but hey-ho, they've got China, I think, tomorrow. A point will see them through. Unfortunately for Ireland, they are out on 1 point, although Katie McCabe's goal from a corner against, I think it was Australia, one of the co-hosts, is something you need to see if you haven't. Absolutely unbelievable, but there's been some great moments, some great shocks, and long may it continue. Up the women's football, up the Lionesses. But we are here today to talk about the men's game. First and foremost, on our predictions for the 2023-24 season ahead. And as I say, that's all of seasons, Greg. We're now here at It's Only a Game on our 4th season, technically.
We are.
Can you believe? Albeit, we're not even 3 years old.
It's almost... It seeps through, doesn't it? The different seasons. It sort of bleeds into episodes years.
We've gone from January in the lockdown season, where Everton had Hammers and Rochdale were in League One. Remember those good times?
Good, yeah.
I think since we started the podcast, both teams have gone to shit. I think it's quite telling, really.
It's like we've gradually got worse somehow. But is that how we're doing? Is that how we're doing? Have they been listening to us? I don't know.
I think this podcast definitely has, like, exterior forces. I mean, let's not forget that Stevenage's promotion campaign last season didn't start with a win at Tranmere. It started with the Steve Evans' cat joke on this podcast.
Well, I was just going to mention Steve Evans' cat episode is a year old. So Steve, is it the happy first birthday to Steve Evans' cat? Technically,
happy birthday, Steve Evans' cat, wherever you are, whatever you're eating. I'm sure you're eating something.
Caterpillar cake? Don't know.
I don't know. Maybe don't get sued. We don't get cancelled here.
That's an episode in itself. Gosh,
the Caterpillar Cake Wars. And also it's overall our 50th episode. I just thought, because we kind of broken up with the name change, podcast broken into half, trailer episodes. But if you go back on the podcast thing, it's like 55, and I thought, ooh, that's quite a lot. Well done, we've made it this far. let's hope we can get to 100. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, anyway, little bit of bump from ramble out the way. Should we start with the Premier League, Greg?
Yes. Now we spoke just before we hit the big record button about our predictions will be somewhat similar, you would think. Do you want to go for outright winner?
Well, yeah, I mean, we should specify we have obviously got myself at the moment, got Greg, and Matt has sent in some predictions for me to read out. They are totally genuine, absolutely his predictions, not at all
made up, that's all.
Not at all what I think he is predicting. But yeah, I didn't think it's any surprise that I think we're probably going for the same team to win it. I think we're thinking Man City, for me personally, will win it. I think it's hard to look past them. I think with the strength, and even when they've not gone all out with like top players, even signing something like Kovacic in midfield, the short midfield is fantastic. He's a cracking player. And I just think that, the treble winners for a reason. The level's above the rest of the league, even when at times last season you thought Arsenal were going to do it. You knew City were going to come back. They've got the know-how. They've won the last 3 titles, for crying out loud. And I know it has to end at some point, but I don't see. And I'm sorry, Arsenal fans. I'm sorry, Liverpool fans, United fans, whoever. I don't see any of the other teams that have strengthened enough to bridge the gap to City, who in themselves have got a good young squad. Okay, yes, they've lost Gundogan to Barcelona. But like I say, they've then gone and got like a Kovacic, who's not the exact same player, but they've got enough talent in like their second and third team to beat most Premier League first teams. So yeah, it's boring, I know, and you're going to hear it. I think everyone I've seen so far has predicted City to win the league. So I'm going to go with Greg. I'm going to guess you've said the same, or you might surprise us.
Yes, I think the same. I can't see, like you've just mentioned. Yes, they've obviously lost a few players, but it's to the point where I don't think anybody has even contemplated anybody else. Possibly, I know. Like, I think Liverpool will get stronger. I think they will be pushing it further than last season at least. And then there's going to be Arsenal, not too sure. Obviously, they somewhat challenged. I know they bottled it somewhere down the line. I can't remember precisely what month it was, but like you mentioned before, Jim, a large percentage of people sort of still thought City could still do it. And I think Arsenal, I don't know. I think that was their chance. I can't see them going to the wire this upcoming season. I think Liverpool will be in there. I think United might be in there. I think they'll be in the top 3-4. They'll keep plodding along. United, obviously, they're people don't really give them maybe the respect that they deserve in terms of they finished in the top 4. They've got a cup. Yeah, they had the blip. Liverpool battered them, and yeah, they lost the FA Cup final. But I think if you're a Man United fan and you just said you'll get top 4 and win a cup, you'd probably take that. I think the average United fan would say, take a cup and top 4 and probably build on from it. I think we had Adam Malone a couple of months ago, possibly, just after February it might have been. And he said he's similar to that let's just try and build on something. That's something to build on, I would say. But yeah, going back to City, I think I can't see who gets near them. I think it could be, I don't know. I know I'm on about Liverpool United having better seasons or building on seasons that they've already had, but I just can't see anybody really taking City to the wire in terms of week in, week out, a bit like how Liverpool did a couple of seasons ago. I can't see that being replicated. Yeah,
I mean, it's all feeling a bit Farmers League, isn't it? bit PSG Bayern Munich, isn't it, where you're basically asking the question now, not who's going to win it, but how many points is City going to win it by? And
yes,
and that's not to disrespect the rest of the top cluster of clubs that are all perfectly capable and are all wonderful sides, and I'm sure will be. Let's not forget Liverpool didn't have quite the start of the season that they'd hoped for. United dropped off for a while. Chelsea came bloody 12th. All the traditional sort of clubs of the last few years that you'd expect to do really well, and it was almost like this big surprise that Arsenal, with the good young side they've got, were up there, which I don't think, looking back, it should have been, but obviously at the time it was seen as, wow, they're actually going to make top 4, they might win the league, and I think there's going to be stronger challenges to City this year. That's not to say that Arsenal weren't strong, but I think outside of Arsenal there wasn't really anyone realistic. When United come third, and they weren't really challenging City for the title particularly over the course of the season, or Arsenal for that matter. They were in that Champions League bracket, of course, and a very good Newcastle side that no one seems to be talking about at the moment.
Why do you think people aren't talking about Newcastle, Jim? Do you think there's a specific reason? Is it because others have strengthened, or?
I think that they're looking at Newcastle and they were hoping for Newcastle to go out and get like mega signings. Now
big names.
They've got Tonali from Milan, who's like one of the hottest young Italian players coming through. But then the problem with that is you look at Tonali, and the big joke is that he looks like miserable going to Newcastle. He was a Milan born and bred lad. He wanted to play for Milan his whole life. And he's basically been sold to Newcastle partly for financial reasons, and obviously he's going to earn a lot more in Newcastle with the money that's going in there than he would have done, pardon me, staying at Milan. But they've got him, they've got Harvey Barnes from Leicester, who again is good, he's fine, he's a good squad player, he could be a good first teamer, you don't know. You can pick players out of relegated teams and really make them into gems, it's not impossible. But I think that they've not really hit the heights of the big names that people were thinking they were going to bring in. Bear in mind, they were getting linked with bloody Neymar at one point, and all this, weren't they? And it's yeah. And I think that coupled with, can they balance that with Champions League midweek football? I think people have got their questions. I think they'll do well in the Champions League. I think they'll get maybe last 8. I think there's no shame in that. I think they'll do really well. I think they'll still be up there next season, but I just think the others are strengthened better than Newcastle. It's not to say they haven't strengthened. I think they'll still be very, very good. But it's going to be a real tough race. The race more is about who gets in top 4 for me, rather than, or who misses out, rather than who wins the title. That's where the real intrigue is.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually, because Chelsea will want to improve. Obviously, new manager, new regime, maybe a new outlook on how they need to get further up the division or win trophies or get back to winning ways. That's going to be something that they will try to be doing. And Chelsea aren't the only team. Tottenham obviously missed out on top 4. They'll be looking to get back in there. I know it weren't a million years ago since they were somewhat around there. Obviously the Leicester season when Leicester won the league, I think they were still in contention with 5 or 6 games to go at Tottenham. Obviously, I remember Arsenal being in there as well. But they'll want to get further up. There's at least, and then you've got teams that will. Aston Villa, obviously, they're not title contenders. We know that, but they will want to. Another team that will want to keep building and keep going and keep going and keep going. Obviously, all fans want that from their individual teams. Yeah, no, you're right. It's all right.
The good thing about Villa is they haven't really lost any. Apart from Ashley Jorgenku, again, he's like 38 and maybe wasn't going to get in the first team this season. They haven't really lost anyone that you'd say is like a major first teamer. And they brought in, Pau Torres, who was linked with like Man City and linked with all the, the biggest, richest clubs in Europe. Moussa Diaby from Leverkusen, who again, if you can link him up with Leon Bailey again, like they did in Leverkusen back in the past, that would work really well. And obviously Yuri Tillemans, who's getting linked with Liverpool and all manner of massive football clubs. Again, not that Villa aren't a massive club, of course they are. But a Conference League Villa compared to a Champions League Man United or whatever is a bit of a difference in level at the moment in time. But I wouldn't rule out, if Villa can hit a good form, the only thing that might draw them back, and I hate saying it, is the Thursday night football in the Conference League. But that might hit that, like it did to West Ham last season. You've got, I think, 14, 15 games to make the final. But hey, if you give Villa fans mid-table finish and winning the Conference League, I think they'd take one look at West Ham celebrations last season and they'd take that all day over finishing 5th or whatever. But obviously that's for Villa fans. I can't speak for them on that one, but I think I know what I'd rather have in terms of, would you rather have 4th or a Conference League trophy? I think you saw what it meant to West Ham fans last season.
It's interesting.
I think that comfortably is what you'd want ahead of, as good as Newcastle had it to come forth. I think there's no substitute for trophies at the end of the day.
It's interesting because I was talking to John Warburton about West Ham about 3 weeks ago, and he said the celebrations were manic in London. He said it were heaving everywhere. On the day of, it were heaving. And he said you couldn't move, you couldn't get in any pubs or whatever, it were packed. But, you ask West Ham fans, what that means to them. It means everything, really. They haven't won a trophy in XYZ amount of years. It was close to 40, was it? Something like that. And,
46.
There you go, 46.
Hang on. 43, sorry. 43, 1980, 43.
And you can't put a price on that in terms of celebration and what it means. And some of them were saying, obviously it's on TalkSport. I'm not too sure what people think about TalkSport, but the West Ham fans were on it saying that they've had a better season than Arsenal. And you think, wow, lifting a trophy is, like as you say, is better than a position finish, unless it's first.
There's an argument.
There's an argument for that.
Relative. It's all relative.
It is all relative.
It's all relative because I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd rather finish second than not win the Conference League. You want Champions League football.
That's
but for
true.
West Ham fan, oh my God, we've won an actual trophy. They haven't won one for 43 years. Whereas Arsenal have were winning the Cup a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all relative. I mean, I personally would rather have West Ham season because it's a trophy. You get that euphoria, but at the same time, it's what you value. If you value, I want Champions League football and I don't want any other Europe. You've seen Liverpool fans gutted because they're in the Europa League. It's like, well, come on, get over it. You're still in Europe. You came fifth. It's not the end of the world. But that's the level they're at. Yeah. The Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Uniteds, the Cities of the world, where if it isn't Champions League, they'd rather just not be in Europe at all because they see it as a hindrance. Whereas I think the clubs that rung below us, I wouldn't even put ourselves in the rung below at the moment in terms of quality, but in terms of size, us, Villa, West Ham, Newcastle, even Tottenham to an extent. Controversial, I know, but would they take winning the Conference League? I mean, if you're a Spurs fan listening, or if you are, would you win the Conference League? I know you're not in it this year, over finishing second, third in the league and not winning something. I mean, you've seen the Champions League, you've been in the Conference League. Which would you rather have at this moment in time? Do you need the trophy or do you need the Champions League more? It's a big question.
It's an interesting debate, and I think West Ham haven't won one for so many years. That's the kicker, isn't it? Really, that's what it is. But
it's a genuine phrase that I don't like to use a lot because I think it's overused. But it was pretty much once in a lifetime. There were people that were born.
I know what you mean by that.
And they were in Prague that night. They will have not seen. They may remember the 2006 Cup final where Gerrard scored that late equaliser, the penalty shootout.
Yeah.
If they're my age, they'll remember that. But there'll be West Ham fans there that will have gone years and years, be in their 40s themselves, and not remember them ever lifted a trophy. They'll have only heard of the FA Cup wins in 75 and 80, the Cup Winners' Cup win in 65, the Cup Winners 64, the great Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst teams around that time, the mid-60s, that obviously the spine of which went on to win the World Cup with England. They wouldn't have known anything other than the odd championship playoff win, promotion, relegation, the odd win against Tottenham or Millwall or whoever, but for them, West Ham, massive football club, huge support, as you alluded to. John, a Burnley fan in London, West Ham, everything, they're West Ham massive, but their support base is phenomenal. It genuinely is phenomenal. For a club that's not just for a club that's won nothing, but it is just massive because they are a huge club that has very much underachieved down the years for what they've got in terms of their fan base and their size and their sort of place in English football.
Could you say, Jim, that in terms of teams that go a long time without winning anything, are they more relatable? Like they are for me as a Rochdale fan because we haven't won anything ever, maybe. But if there's a team that haven't won anything in 40 years, call it Newcastle, could be another one. I wanted Newcastle to beat Man United in the League Cup final because they haven't won anything for donkey's years. Do they automatically become relatable on that basis?
Depends on the fan base. I think you're always rooting for. I always find myself rooting for a team that hasn't won anything for a long time. I remember back in the day we were rooting for City to win the league. I don't know if you were, but 2012 because they hadn't won it for 44, 46 years at that point.
Yeah.
Obviously hard to think of now. I think 68 last time in the league before, so 44 years when they won it in 2012. Obviously now, like I say, completely different. But I think it depends on the set of fans. I mean, and I don't want to bring this up because, I am going to bring it up. There's a weird Twitter rivalry because Twitter's the essence of all good in football, not between Everton fans and Newcastle fans. And there's a whole big argument of delusion and stuff like that. But
wow.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's all them because there are Evertonians that go Newcastle fans as well. It does happen. It's been going on for a few years. Basically, the my dad's bigger than your dad type argument. Bigger club. That nonsense. You'll see at your level, I'm sure, as well. I'm sure you and Oldham have arguments, or whoever, have arguments about who's the bigger club. It seems to have just spiraled out of control, and at the point where Everton fans don't want Newcastle to do anything, and it's like, well, they haven't won anything, for a long, long, long time. Domestically since the 50s. I think they won the Old First Cup in the 60s, but if they do go and win something, you can't. I mean, my perspective is you can't really begrudge a team that's gone 40, 50 years without winning a trophy. Again, with a humongous fan base. You can say, oh, they're only one club in that city. Well, they've still got a humongous fan base regardless. They still sell out in the Championship and they're in the second division, 52,000 fans. If they go and win a trophy this year, I won't begrudge them. I won't mind. I won't be sick of seeing Anthony Gordon parading around with it, but that's my own personal feelings on him and the way he left Everton. But as a football fan, you want to see different clubs win things. It gets boring.
Yeah.
Like I thought we're both predicting City to win the league for the fourth time in 4 years. That's going to be seven times out of 8 or something, or 7 times out of 9 or something crazy like that. You're like, I can't remember the exact numbers now, but it's like, what kind of league is it where, and this is meant to be the most marketable, the biggest TV deals, the biggest everything, apart from some of the transfers from Saudi, but we'll get onto that at some point, and maybe not today or another time. This is meant to be the biggest league in the world, the most exciting league in the world. How can you market that when there's one team dominating every year? That doesn't leave you with any jeopardy or any excitement. It's like, it's a one-horse race, isn't it?
It is for the fans that don't support Man City. For the Man City fans, they are quite literally living the dream. I know a few City fans. One of them I've known for 20 odd years. My mate Sam, I'll have him on one day. But I've known him since high school. I've known him since about 99 onwards, and I've known him to go through tough times with watching City. And I know it sounds daft now, looking at what they can demolish Real Madrid and things like that, literally pull them apart. But he I remember having discussions with him about playing Walsall or Tranmere or something, and it's good to be friends with someone who's sort of living that, and you sort of feel like you're.
Do you mean vicariously? I agree with your point though. This isn't a pop at City or City fans or spending or anything like that. Like I say, it's not a fairy tale because of the amount we spend, but that's not the argument here. My argument is not having to go at City. I know City fans that have been there since the 60s or 70s. One guy in particular who is diehard City fan, lives in London, but has been supporting City when they're in like the absolute shit. Remembers them, in what is now League One, playing Gillingham, losing to Macclesfield in York, teams like that. Remember very much the early 2000s when they were yo-yoing between the top and the second division. Years of absolute nothing, and don't begrudge the true City fans.
Yeah,
the absolute best of they are living the absolute best they've ever seen their club be. Understandably, they've never had it this good, but they've been through times that some top football clubs, even they've been to the lows that even Everton haven't been to as of yet, and other clubs like United, Liverpool, Arsenal, possibly Chelsea couldn't relate to in terms of the lows at Man City. I remember them when they went down. They drew at Tottenham, same. I mean, they drew at Stoke on the last day of the 97-98 season. Both teams went down, and I remember at the time of the kid thinking, and being what a massive deal it is that Manchester City were going into the third division, and it was. It was a huge deal. They are a huge football club. I know you could say, oh, they're only a small club, they can't fill their stadium. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. They've always had a massive fan base for the
It's interesting you should say that. It's interesting you should say that, because we've had when we had Brian on the episode right at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking to Brian the other day, he's a Man City fan. He tried to get tickets for the league games on the online queue, or whatever you want to call it, when they were all released. And he was behind 30,000 fans in the queue. So it's difficult to say that they're not a big club. Do you know?
Well, they are now. I mean, I think
that's what I'm saying.
Modern phenomenon is because the success breeds success. They've become what United were 10, 15 years ago. Global. All that kind of stuff's going to happen. They hate to admit it. I remember chatting with City fans about 2009. Said they were moaning about all the United fans coming from out of town. It was like, well, that's what you're going to be when you get really good. You do know that. That's the nature. That's the nature of whoever it is. Any Premier League club, no matter who they are, if their team's been successful in the Premier League, Brighton, for example, are going to have out-towners want to go and watch Brighton because they play good football. It's Premier League. And they've got money, they're tourists, they're going to want to pay a price to get in the same way that people literally flock to go watch Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, Ajax on stag do's, or there's whole tours you see on social media dedicated to watch these teams. Because success breeds success, and that's that's the nature of how it's going to be. I mean, I'm talking about City before the money. They were still a big name. They just weren't successful. Like it has been the case with Newcastle, with Everton, with Tottenham. It gets ridiculed, but then only one team can win a single, a league or a cup, whatever each season.
We've said this before, haven't we? Yeah.
As we've alluded to many times. It just so happens now that the same team seems to win them all, which, for them, brilliant. For the rest of us, it's either annoying, or in my case, I just found it fairly emotionless. I wasn't moved either way, really. But
I was with that.
But it was just kind of like, oh, well, that was going to happen because we all knew it was going to happen. But I think we've spoken plenty on City. I think we can establish that it would be a shock if they didn't win the league this year. I'm not saying Arsenal, Liverpool, United, whoever haven't got any chance. But I do think it would be a bit of a shock if City were to not win the league this year. It would take something catastrophic to happen to City's squad or Guardiola or something for them to not win the league, really. We've also got... Go on, sorry.
Yeah, do you want to talk about potential relegations, or you're not too bothered?
We have, but we've also got Matt's prediction.
Go for it.
He's gone for United. Sheffield United.
There you go. That makes more sense.
He says that they can do it again. They've got history of doing it. 1898, but okay. They've got history on their side because Bramall Lane's one of the oldest grounds in existence. And he says that Iliman Ndiaye is the Senegalese prince that we all need and deserve. And he'll
there you go.
Title.
I can't see fit.
I think he's off to Marseille, isn't he?
He might be now, after hearing that.
Let's not tell him. So Matt goes for Sheffield United from the Premier League. So, nice one, Matt. Good reasoning, sound reasoning, Every streak's going to end at some point. You're going to take a streak ended at WrestleMania, so I mean, why can't Sheffield United win the Premier League?
Why not?
Anyway, top four. Top four, Greg, what are you saying for the rest top four? Obviously City first, goes without saying, but
Yeah, I'll go City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal. I can't see United dropping out the top four. Liverpool, I think, as I said before, they'll try and build on. Well, they'll want to improve. I think if Kane leaves Tottenham, that's them. They're not getting in the top four. Arsenal, I think they'll just about squeak top four. That's my top four, yeah.
Well, you'll be shocked to hear my revolutionary top four then, Greg. You'll be, yeah. Well, obviously, City in the league, I've gone second Arsenal, third Liverpool, fourth United.
Well, there you go. Is that really Morecambe and Wise? Very Morecambe and Wise.
Not all the all the right notes, just not necessarily the right order. I think Arsenal are really good. I think they've signed Havertz, who I think will fit their system really well. They've got Declan Rice, who again I think they've paid too much for, but it's what West Ham bullied them at. They've got Timber from Ajax, who I really rate as a fullback. I think he's what they need. I think there's nothing. I can't see anything they've done that's bad. The only issue I think they've got is losing Xhaka, but they've got good money for him and they've got Rice in. So to go alongside the rest of their midfield, for me, Arsenal are stronger, and I think they're the ones that will potentially run City the closest. Or the only issue is, can that young team balance a good title run, as it would have to be, with Champions League football? I don't think they're going to be top. They're not going to be top seed in their group. They might be second or third seeds. They're going to play a big team in the Champions League group stage. You've got the cups. They're going to want to win a cup this year. Are they going to be able to balance that with still quite a young side? Yes, they've got experience in the likes of Havertz, Rice, and to a lesser extent Timber in terms of playing in the English league. Although he's won league titles at Ajax, he's got experience of that, so that's brilliant. I think Arsenal will just be, and I think Arteta is a fantastic manager. I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up his backside. I really think he's picked up from Guardiola a lot of things, and you can see in the way Arsenal play, in the way that he handles himself within the media, and just generally, I think he's got a lot about him that he brings a reassurance. He's a real fatherly figure to that young Arsenal team. Liverpool, I like Szoboszlai, I like McAllister. I'm really envious that they've got two wonderful players to sort of rejuvenate the midfield. It was well known the midfield was getting old, it was getting aged. Obviously Henderson's gone. to Saudi, to Al Ettifaq. You've had obviously Milner's gone to Brighton. I mean, they've lost Firmino as well to Al Ahly over in Saudi as well. But Darwin looks like he could be, finally finding his... Not that he didn't find his feet in the first season. I think it's a misnomer that he had a poor season. I think he just because he wasn't Erling Haaland, let's be honest, only Erling Haaland's Erling Haaland. If you're going to use him as the barometer to measure every other centre forward by, regardless of what you pay,
he's basically like Brock Lesnar, isn't he? He's just a different animal altogether.
He's a freak. Yeah. And they can say, Liverpool paid more for Darwin than City paid for Haaland. Yeah, because Haaland had a release clause in his contract that said that City can get him for 65 million or something, which, absolute steal for what you get for him in the modern day. I think he'll be fantastic. I still think Salah's got a few years in him. I think there'll be a force going forward. Jota and Diaz, I really like Diaz. I think he's a wonderful player. I think the only issue they might have is centre half. I can't think if they've signed anyone at centre half now that can fill in. I'll just scroll down. Total preparation here. No, they haven't got anyone at centre half. They've lost Naby Keita to Werder Bremen, who again not a centre half. Oxlade-Chamberlain's been released. Carvalho on loan to Leipzig.
Oh yeah,
like that as a move. I like him. I think he'll come back a cracking player if he does come back from Leipzig, or he'll just do really well and get signed there. But anyway, the only issue I have to have is centre half because Gomez isn't it. Matip is okay. Van Dijk is he what he was when he was at his peak? Maybe, but he needs someone beside him. Liverpool still got time to sort that out, and I think they're third. I think United's issue is goals. I think they're getting Rasmus Højlund in from Atalanta, who I think, if he can hit the ground running, which is a big if, then United can finish top four comfortably, because I think the rest of their squad looks settled in a way that it wants to play the way Ten Hag wants to play. Onana in goals, a cracking keeper. He does distribute the ball the way that De Gea doesn't, or didn't. And again, it's Ten Hag's team now, it feels like. But I still feel like they're lacking that little bit of what's going to propel them above, Liverpool, for example. Liverpool had a poor season away from home last season, and they were playing catch-up. Yeah, Chelsea drop away entirely. It was only really a fantastic Newcastle team that pushed United for that third spot in the league. In the end. So, that's why I'm going City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United from the top four. Newcastle just missed out. Chelsea, I had no idea what's going to happen.
I'm not too sure about Chelsea myself. That was one I was just going to...
don't know what to make of them. Chelsea could be second, or they could even win the league. God knows how. Or they could be atrocious. I just don't know what to make of them at all. Pochettino I really rate as a manager, but is he going to be able to handle a dressing room even with a lot of the bigger egos you think gone?
I think it's Tottenham and Chelsea where I go, I have no idea there. I can't predict anything on them. It's sort of...
With Tottenham, I think with them, I feel like with Postecoglou in charge, you chat to any Celtic fan, they're going to play really good, attractive attacking football. And they've got, if they keep Kane, brilliant. If they lose Kane, they're getting big money for him. But they've still got players like Son, Richarlison, and there are other guys as well. Pedro Porro, I think, can play up there. I could be wrong. I may have completely lied about that. He may be a fullback. No idea. Oops. But I think the way that Postecoglou wants to play might work really well at Tottenham. But Chelsea, for me, I'm looking at who they've got. Nkunku, signed from Leipzig. Premier players are signed from Leipzig to go to the Premier League, especially go to Chelsea. Timo Werner don't tend to do that well, and I really rate Nkunku. Nicholas Jackson, don't know enough about him from Villarreal. Could be brilliant, could be terrible. And after that, you've got names that I can't really say know a lot about, and they've just sold off so many players that not all were brilliant, but when you look at it, Kai Havertz, Mateo Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, Kalidou Koulibaly, Edward Mendy, Aubameyang, alright, fair enough, Azpilicueta, Kante. That's pretty much in terms of regular first team names. That's a lot of players gone out.
You're going to have to everyone talks about, well, not everyone. People talk about the Klopp cycles and how many years he has at the club and all this kind of stuff. You look at that list that Chelsea have just released since the whatever that is in terms of release or leaving or selling, that's a lot of work to be. That's trying to build an entirely new squad almost. I don't know how quickly you can hit the ground running with any fresh players. If you replace Rochdale at the minute, we've got rid of 11 players and signed 8. I don't know how well that's going to go, and I don't know how Chelsea are going to do it, because that's trying to. I don't know. It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot to do in a short time. I don't know if they want to be up there soon. I don't know what they need to do. I'm not too sure. It sounds like a lot of building there.
The only thing on Chelsea is they have got traditionally massive squads, and they've got some good young players coming through. Lewis Hall's coming through, who looks a fantastic player. You've still got the likes of Raheem Sterling. You've still got Kepa in goal, who can still do stuff. You've still got, I don't know how they manage him, you've still got Romelu Lukaku as a centre forward at the moment. There's talk of him going out to Juventus or Inter on a permanent deal. But for now, as of right now, he is contracted to Chelsea, and he could do a job if Pochettino uses him the right way. You've still got so much quality in that squad, but I don't know. You've still got Thiago Silva at the back. You like I say, you've still got players, Ben Chilwell, internationals, top quality players, but I just don't know really with them if they're going to have.
It's a big question mark, isn't it? It's a big question mark.
Yeah. Alright, so go on to Matt's top 4. Sorry,
go on.
Obviously, we know he's picked Sheffield United to win the league, as we know. He's had second. He goes Big Vinny K, knows all about finishing in the top 4 with Man City. So Big Vinny K is getting Burnley to second. So kind of good logic. He says Everton were third last season, so they'll be third again this year. So Everton for third. I don't know how he's. All right,
third.
And in fourth, he's gone Tottenham. Because banter.
So Spursy. Yeah. There you go.
Incredibly Spursy to finish fourth.
Yeah.
Behind Everton, Burnley, Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Imagine that. We came fourth.
Jesus.
Yeah, against 3 of them. They're the outside rankers of this season. Yeah. Jesus. 2 promoted sides in this fucking Everton team. Jesus. Speaking of which, let's move on to relegation then, Greg.
Yeah. Okay. I
think one of my relegation teams will surprise you, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. I don't want them to go down, but I think Luton will go down. I can not sympathise. I can sort of understand Luton, and I want them to do well. And they're a small club, and they're unfashionable in terms of playing against United and Arsenal and Liverpool, Chelsea, City, whatever. They are the underdog. I don't want them to go down. I just can't see how they can consistently keep it up week after week, playing all these teams. And I'm not saying they're not capable. I sort of am, maybe I am. But I think it's going to be difficult. So Luton are in there. They might surprise a few. They might get, beat the odd Chelsea 1-0. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really challenging for them. Luton's one of them. The next team that came to mind just popped in straight off the bat was Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will go down. I think they've had their sort of run. They've had the stint. They've been up there for quite a while. I don't know. It was just one of the first ones that popped in. I thought Bournemouth. And I sort of think Everton might go down. I don't like saying that, but yeah, I know it's like, yeah. I know it's you and Matt's team, and I'm just not sure. They've been teetering down there at the bottom, haven't they, in the past 2 years-ish, something like that. I sort of think it might happen. I don't want it to happen because I don't mind Everton. We've been the other week to watch them, last week even, and the other year, things like that. I don't particularly want them to go down. Again, it's sort of, I can't see how consistently they can keep it up. The wins, getting the 3 points, things like that. Even clean sheets, I'm not too sure about. I know you mentioned, obviously, a couple of episodes ago about goals. Consistently, obviously, trying to get the goals. I don't know. It feels like it could happen. But I'm over to you on that one, Jim. I'm not sure what you think on bottom 3.
Well, I've tipped us to go down, of course. Mainly because I did it last year. And I'm going to keep doing it. Because recruitment's non-existent. I think, yeah, like you say, we don't have any goals in the team. We saw us at Bolton midweek last week. Okay, the kids look more like they scored in the first team. It's okay, we won away at Stoke in a friendly. Amadou Onana scores a 96-minute winner. He's a midfielder. We score a 1-0 win away at Wigan. Ashley Young scored. He's a midfielder turned fullback. He's 38. Again, pre-season's it's about minutes, about fitness, the cliche. It's about getting bodies in the door. We haven't got bodies in the door. We've got Danjuma finally on loan from Villarreal. If he's the striker that the owners have promised, we're in deep shit, because he's not an out-and-out centre forward. He's more of a winger who comes off the side, and very good attacking player. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a good player, and I'm glad we finally got him through the door, but he's not your 10, 15, whatever, 20 goal a season man, maybe 10, but 20 goal a season man you need if you're going to be comfortable. We need somebody who's going to come in who can do a job, and I don't see that even comes from. We've been linked with names. We've been linked with a guy from Sporting today, some 19-year-old lad, who the Sporting fans seem absolutely delighted to be losing. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's just a lot. If Sporting club fans are happy to lose this 19-year-old kid for a fee to Everton, then he doesn't seem
that's
particularly
not great reading, is it?
Way.
Yeah.
No, we've had it before where we've sold players on. They're going, oh yeah, brilliant! Can't believe we sold them. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not great. I mean, it could turn out all right, but that's if we do get him. We've been linked with the lad El Bilal Toure from Almeria, but he's apparently offered from Atalanta on the cards. Atalanta, I think, in Europa League this season. I'm not being funny. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to Bergamo, Northern Italy, play Serie A in Europa League. You're going to be in a moody Merseyside scrapping the relegation. I mean, that's how it's looking at the moment. The one thing I will say that, well, not one thing, but is the fact that Dyche's going to have us fit. Dyche's going to have us organised, you'd hope. We haven't conceded many in pre-season. In fact, in the games against Wigan, Bolton and Stoke, we've conceded none. Granted, it's, against lower teams from Championship League 1, but still didn't concede any. And that's how it's looking like it's going to be. It's going to be a lot like Dyche at Burnley, where it's going to be a lot of build from the back, clean sheet. First priority is do not lose, and then get your 1-0 wins. If we can develop from there, great. But I don't see Calvert-Lewin's not going to be fit, or he's not going to be ready anyway. A lot of the time, he's going to be fit, but not match fit. If that makes sense. Yes. We've got quality. The thing is, annoyingly, we've got quality in there. If it turns up, Iwobi, Gray if he stays. McNeil looks lively. The young lad Dobbin up front, who I want to see get more minutes this year. We've got ability in there, but I think, like you say, the last 2 years we've really battled, but this is not just the last 2 years. This is, as I've said before, year upon year of awful recruitment, poor mismanagement from the very top. No one has a clue what's going on, and it's gonna have to come on to at some point. We've been hindered massively by, we've got money to spend, we just can't spend it because of the FFP, because we've been hit, because our revenue's crap, because we spent a load of money 5-6 years ago and got nowhere with it, and that's not anyone's fault but the board's. So yeah, I think we go. I'm going to say Luton's a go as well, but I don't think Luton finish bottom. I like what they've done. I like what Luton are doing. That might sound crazy. Signing Ryan Giles, Taif Chong, Mads Anderson, Marvellous Nakamba and Chidozie Ogbene. They're getting guys from, a second string Wolves player, a lad from Birmingham, a lad from Barnsley, very much an Aston Villa reserve, a lad from Rotherham. You're thinking, this isn't Premier League recruitment, but you're Luton Town, you're going to be spending money on the stadium, which I know is a bit of a meme, a bit of a cliche, but you didn't expect to necessarily be in this position at this point in your stage of development. If you can build in players, young players, that can give the Premier League a good crack, get some wins at home, because that's going to be a hard place to go to, Kenilworth Road this coming season. I'm not going to enjoy going there. Not that I'm going to go there, but Everton. I'm not going to enjoy Everton going there.
It's a potential banana slip, isn't it?
It's going to be a rough place to go. It's going to be like when people used to go to Stoke, or when you go to one of those where it's going to be a really up and up and kind of atmosphere. A bit like Palace as fans, but you're going to have a real intimate setting of 10,000, 11,000 Luton fans living the dream and not caring what the result is, but they're just going to be made up to be there, and in a way that's going to be dangerous. They're physical, they're going to be aerial, they're going to be big men to play against, and look, if they go down, they're building a team that can bounce back, and that's what they're doing. It's smart. They're not doing the let's spend £100 million on international players and then still get relegated, like Fulham have done in the past, or like Fulham's or QPR going way back. They're building smart, and if they do go down, you don't fear for them to come back up again, because they're on players that, hey, if they go to the Championship for a year, they can build them back up again and send them back up again. And that's when, potentially there could be a new stadium on the horizon there for Luton, and that's when the real work begins to keep them in the Premier League for me. If they can stay up, brilliant, but there's no shame in going down with the squad they've got, and they're building well for the future.
In terms of what you're talking about, in terms of the atmosphere, the stadium of being difficult to go there and play against, it could be similar to when Portsmouth had that sort of feel at Fratton Park, didn't they? In terms of, was it Ronaldinho that said it was a difficult place to go to?
Ronaldinho, and I think Kaka went there with Milan, didn't they, in 2009 or something. Oh, Portsmouth was a horrible place to go to in the Premier League. Their fans were fantastic. You had the fellow with the bell and the tattoos. I think we've all seen the massive song. They were a good side. They at their pomp, they were chasing Europe, Champions League at one point. They were a good side. Your Carney, your Defoe, your Crouch, your John, Utaka, Sully Montari, all those
Glenn
names,
Johnson,
that were... Glenn Johnson was there. You had Yakubu for a while, obviously going, a bit further back. You had some David James, Sol Campbell. You had some unbelievable players at Portsmouth. That, I almost feel like we should do an episode on that Portsmouth period where they just came up with like Paul Merson up front and then kind of stayed. Teddy Sheringham was up front for a while for them. They stayed in the Premier League for 7 or 8 years. It was only about 6, 7, 8 years where they were in the Premier League. But in that time, in the FA Cup, played Milan in Europe, beat some big sides. They beat United, they beat Liverpool, they beat most of the big teams in the Premier League, at least at Fratton Park, in front of a 19,000 little run-down stadium, and then hit all kinds of financial shit. It was a hell of a story. And yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was a wild ride, come to think of it.
We need to tap into that. Yeah, we need to get into that somehow.
Obviously, if you're a Portsmouth fan, you can divulge far more about that, because obviously what's gone on since then was saving the club and dropping down to League Two and bouncing back up, and now, being one of my tips anyway, potentially to get out of League One the right way this year. Absolutely wild time in the football club's history. But my final prediction to go down, and this might shock you, is Wolves.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
I don't know. Like, they've got Boubacar Traoré from Metz for $9.5 million. I don't know much about him. He could be brilliant. Fair play. Matt Doherty's back on a free from Atletico Madrid. I mean, it's fine. He's back, but it's a completely different manager. He played well under Nuno. They've had a few managers since then. I like Julian Lopetegui as a manager, but it seems to me Wolves are kind of as echoes of Everton in terms of the money could be there. They just can't spend it because of FFP. They've got Tom King, who's a keeper, on a free from Northampton, former Salford goalkeeper. He's been bought as a backup. Otherwise, you've sold Ryan Giles, he was a backup winger to Luton. You've lost Conor Cody to Leicester for $7.5 million. Nathan Collins was your best centre-half probably last year. He's gone to Brentford for $23 million. When Brentford are spending $23 million on a centre-half, no disrespect to Brentford. Raul Jimenez, I know he's not been quite the same since his head injury. He's got to Fulham $5.5 million. And obviously they lost Ruben Neves to Al Hilal, $47 million. He's the real heartbeat, the metronome of that team. They've still got quality in there, don't get me wrong. Diego Costa released, Yao Moutinho's released. Kiana Hoover's gone to loan on Stoke. I thought he was going to be a solid fullback for them at one point. They've lost a lot of the players that you'd associate with Wolves in that real period of them being really good. I know obviously things move on, and again, Wolves fans, feel free to disagree with me because my team's a load of crap. But I do worry for Wolves in that I still think they've lost that spine of that spirit, and I'm sure they've still got a lot about them. But for me, they didn't have a great end to the season last season. Remember rightly, they were away from relegation for a few wins, but they were kind of just hovering for a bit, and they just kind of meandering. And you always find like a Southampton, where a team kind of meanders mid-table, doesn't really have much to show for it, and then it catches them up. So I think us, Luton and Wolves are going this year. I mean, I had thought about Bournemouth, but you know what? I'm going to say now, I know you predicted Bournemouth, I'm going to not argue, but you know what I mean, I'm going to counteract that. They've got the guy in charge from Rayo Vallecano, Antonio Raiola. Very exciting attacking football. The players they brought in, Bournemouth, absolutely. Roman 5 from Lyon, who could have played for a Champions League club. Justin Kluivert, Milos Kerkez from RZ, who I really like the look of. I think he's always looked good for Hungary.
Yeah.
They've got... It's a bit like, how I don't know how to describe it. I'm trying to think of a team where it's like... They could be a lot of fun. They could be a lot of fun to watch Bournemouth. It can either go horrendously wrong for them, or it could be brilliant. And teams would be dreading playing them. It could either go amazingly and they get be like Brighton, where they come like 7th or 6th in the league.
Overachieve.
But yeah, they could massively overachieve and get into Europe, or it could be, oh my god, because you always think, it was a Scott Parkers and Jonathan Woodgates and Gary Nizzle. They've gone in a completely different direction now, Bournemouth owners. Quite within their rights to say, let's go and challenge for Europe, let's go and push up the league. It could backfire massively. It could be brilliant. I don't know. I think it could be really good fun to watch. So I'm going to say they'll do quite well. But I agree in that if it backfires, it's going to be horrific, and they've got to try and undo all that work that they've tried to change over the summer. So yeah, that's the Premier League.
Yeah, just whilst we've finished on the Premier League, I put a tweet out on the It's Only a Game podcast Twitter page. Or is it X? Is it X now? Are we in the X? Is it X or Twitter?
I'm calling it Twitter, mate.
I'm calling it Twitter. So I put in there, ahead of our season preview episode, we'd like to know who you think will win the top 5 divisions. Premier League, Championship, blah, blah, blah. We've had quite a few replies. I'll try and get through some of these. Our friend Glenn from the uni days. Hi, Glenn. We'll try and get you on at one point. He's gone Man City. Glenn, sorry.
Glenn. You say who's Glenn?
Sorry. It's me.
It's
Baby,
right,
yeah. He's gone for Man City, Southampton, Derby, and Bradford. Let's not talk about Bradford. I dislike Bradford. Matt JB has said Premier League, Man City, Championship, Leeds, League 1, Bolton, League 2, Wrexham, National League, Rochdale. I wish that one would happen, but I don't think it will. Richard Hendry, James's brother, who listens to the show. Both of them, I think, do. Spurs. He's got Spurs to win the league. Middlesbrough, Port Vale, Salford City, and Hartlepool United. And I think James has replied saying, laughing emoji. There you go.
I think he's gone down the Matt Driver school of predictions there, personally.
Seems that way.
Even the Port Vale want to win League 1. I'm a little bit unsure about Port Vale winning League 1. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably better teams than Vale there, but sorry, Vale fans.
We've got another 3, which I'll just quickly blast through. Nathan Lugg would like a shout out to Nathan Lugg. We've noticed a few tweets from this fella. We'll have to have you on one day, Nathan. See what you might want to have a chat about. Gone for Man City, Norwich, Charlton, Wrexham, and Chesterfield. Who else have we got here? Dave Proudlove, City, Leicester City, Derby County, Wrexham, and Chesterfield. Some of these are quite similar. Chris 4, RAFC, he's gone for Man City, Southampton, Bolton, Gillingham, and Chesterfield. I was tempted to talk about Gillingham, but we will get to that. Hopefully, it might not be today. It might be in our next episode, but who knows? Over to you, Jim.
I've got Matt's relegation predictions. Very briefly,
yeah.
He says that the pressure will get to Arsenal of following up the achievements of last season and juggling Champions League with trying to achieve in the league, and they'll therefore get relegated. Man United, Rasmus Højlund will get injured, and United won't score a single goal because apparently their fans on Twitter, they have no other centre forwards.
Right, okay.
They seem to have a striker problem, which you've literally got Marcus Rashford, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, one of the best.
And Man City will get hit by FFP with all their allegations and be docked 200 points.
Oof,
so he's tipped for City, Arsenal and United to get relegated. It's ambitious. It's ambitious.
Interesting. I like it.
It's ambitious, man. Ambitious.
I like it.
I mean, it's out there.